So, good morning, all the kids at home, or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. It could be midnight. Who's to say? This is Only Stupid Answers. This is the show where we answer your questions about movies, TV shows, comic books. My name is DJ Wooldridge, and with me, as always, is Roxy Stryer. But today, we also have an incredibly special guest, Mr. Jason Inman. Jason.
Hello, sir. Thanks for having me again.
Dude, thanks for coming on. How are we doing today?
I have plenty of stupid answers for you today, so I think I'm doing pretty well.
Listen, we're on.
That's the point.
That's why we do this. There's not enough stupid answers in the world. Too many people on the internet are giving you solid advice. And
That's right.
We're here to be the other.
Stay away from Quora. Stay away. Only come to Only Stupid Answers.
Only Stupid Answers. Gosh, dang it. And today, of course, we were talking about Mr. Jason Inman's new comic, Super Best Friend. And before we go any further, Jason, tell us a little bit about Super Best Friend Part 2.
Yeah, well, Super Best Friend is this comic book series that I've been making for the last year or so that is all about fun and love and Silver Age energy. It is about Maddie Moore, who is the best friend to the world's greatest superhero, Captain Terrific. And Maddie Moore, like, you know, the people on this podcast, likes to live stream, likes to YouTube, and he accidentally reveals his best friend's secret identity on a live stream. And this Part 2 is all about him having to basically walk the tight wire of friendship because, of course, his best friend hates him now.
Yes.
And also figure out how in the world of superheroes and supervillains he can repair his best friend's life and put his best friend's life back in balance. But also throughout all of it, it's basically a story about how a sidekick goes to superhero and how that journey happens. And it's a 44-page comic book that I awesomely convinced superstar comic book artist Dan Jurgens, the guy who helped draw and create The Death of Superman, to draw a variant cover for me. So, you know, this book, not only being like a dream story that I've wanted to tell for years, crossed off a bucket list item because I've always wanted Dan Jurgens to draw one of my characters, and now he has.
So obviously there's a link to this in the description, but for those that don't want to go down and click the link, how would they go about finding it?
The easiest place to find it is superbestfriendcomic.com. It'll be live until March 2nd. The Dan Jurgens cover will never be available anywhere else. And you better bet your sweet Bippy I bought the original art from Mr. Dan Jurgens as well. So I'm going to frame that up on the wall very soon. But it's a lot of fun. We've already funded, which is great. So we're pushing towards stretch goals. And I've had some fans ask me about Pogs. So we might be doing some Pogs on the campaign, if you all remember those.
Why did you want to do a best friend thing or a friendship piece?
Because I kind of feel like I have a friendship with superheroes throughout all my life, and I wanted a way to personify that. And Maddie and Captain Terrific are very much two pieces of a whole, kind of like Kirk and Spock, kind of like Sherlock and Watson. They're actually together a whole human being. And I feel like Captain Terrific is my dreams of a superhero world, and Maddie is my fandom.
Super cool. Super cool. Please, please, please do yourself a favor. Go check it out. Go back this comic. I remember I backed this one, but I also backed Super Best Friend 1, and it was great. So if you enjoy comics, if you enjoy superhero comics, if you enjoy comics that can take you back to the joy of Silver Age of comics, please do yourself a favor. Go check that out.
And you can pick up copies of, I should make that clear, you can pick up copies of issue 1 on issue 2.
So you're not missing out. You're not missing out. If you missed out last time, get in on it this time. As always on this show, of course, please go over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. We got one from R Robo. Love the show. Very funny. Great audio and fantastic topics. Thank you for complimenting our audio. And on Spotify, we ask a question every week. Last week was, what future DC movies are you most looking forward to? Ray Raphael Alvarez, Blue Beetle, and whatever they end up doing with John Constantine. Also, they're saying Joker 2 is happening, ? Raymond Muller says, has to be Batman, begging and hoping for a Robin in the sequel. Also, really looking forward to the Blue Beetle movie in production. And then Tevin Davis says, The Flash. I also want to see Wonder Woman in more things. Giganta and Cersei for Wonder Woman 3. And of course, if you want to watch the video of episodes like this early, If you want to check out my show with Sal from Comic Pop Spider-Versity, where we're going through all the Spider-Man movies, you can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupid answers. Sal and I just recorded our Into the Spider-Verse episode, and boy, howdy, was that a blast. It was so good.
You guys are almost done. Wow.
We're going through. So we just did Into the Spider-Verse. Next is Venom. Because we're
you're counting that. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. We're kind of having to stall a little bit until No Way Home has a home release to where because full disclosure, a little bit of how the sausage is made. It takes me about 4 hours to get through one of these movies with the amount of notes I take, which for the Amazing films was a challenge. For Into the Spider-Verse, it was a blast. It was really cool. So we're kind of having to wait till No Way Home hits a home release, and so we're counting Venom, and that will be fun.
I think that's a good thing to count because I love Venom, and I think that you should feel grateful that the movie exists and that you're able to talk about it, DJ.
Listen, I think Sal and I are going to have a fun discussion about it. And I will say some of these in the revisiting process, there's things I've come to appreciate more about them. Like I think I came to appreciate Andrew Garfield's performance in the Amazing Spider-Man films more within the rewatch, and certain elements specifically of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 1's trash. But Amazing Spider-Man 2 has some things I genuinely like. So here's to Amazing Spider-Man 3. Hey, speaking of Sony expanding their Spider-Verse, let's talk a little bit of news. Miss Dakota Johnson has been cast as Madam Web. Yay! Everybody's favorite Spider person, Madam Web, has been cast as Madam Web for some movie in the future, if it ever happens. But, we do live in a world of Morbius, so hey, who knows? Jason, let's start with you. You're our guest today. What do you think about this news?
Well, I can tell you that I know that Sony is so close to the pulse of the people, because I think if you would have asked every person walking out of Spider-Man No Way Home, what's the Spider-Man character you want to see in a movie next, they all would have said Madam Web. I know it. 100%.
It's so funny because Sal and I were talking about this when we recorded, literally like the day before this news broke. We were recording our Spider-Versity episode. And we talked about how Tom Holland, like somebody asked Tom Holland in an interview, like, what Spider movie do you want to see? He's like, Madam Web. I'm like, what Sony exec told you to say that? Because there's no fucking way that was your thought on your, just independently.
I did see, it's so funny. The Sony executives' choices to sort of make this Spider-Man movie verse that doesn't have Spider-Man in it is so interesting. Because some of the choices, like what Roxy brought up, Venom's a good choice for that.
Yes.
Like Venom is a character that can carry a movie. So great choice. Morbius is one where I'm like, Morbius? Who? Like, and Madam Web goes into the Morbius category where I'm like, I don't know if from what I know of Madam Web, can carry a movie. So to me, you're telling me that you're basically going to have to create a brand new character and just slap the Madam Web name over it. But
for that sweet brand recognition of Madam Web.
So you can call it like maybe Madam Web, friend of Spider-Man or something like that.
Friend of the defender of the Spider-Verse.
Why do you guys think that they're doing it then? Because obviously they're thinking with their bottom line. That's the only thing that they're thinking about. That's what a business does. Why do you think that they believe that Madam Web is the way to make themselves money?
God, what a good question. The only thing what are you going to say, Jason?
No, you go for it.
Well, first off, there's been a couple variations of Madam Web. If you're like me and you grew up watching the Spider-Man cartoon, you're thinking of old dusty-ass Madam Web from there. However, in the comics...
Who created the first Spider-Verse.
Well, and that's... I have to imagine that's the reason, because literally in the like Hollywood Reporter write-up, she's like, she's psychically connected to spider people, which is like... It's crazy that's a selling point, and we're at a point in cultural saturation of not only superheroes, but specifically spider-themed superheroes, that is a selling point. But there was an update to the character from the second Spider-Woman, Julia Carpenter, who I actually have a lot of affection for. She was kind of the Spider-Woman when I was growing up. She was part of that Iron Man cartoon. I'm actually a fan of her.
Is she the one in the blue suit with the white spider? Kind of looks like Venom?
Yeah, but yes, okay. Basically the black suit Spider-Man, but Spider-Woman. And she was Madam Web for a minute, and Dakota Johnson, actually, that's kind of a close fit. It's like, that actually, I can see that. But I got to imagine it's the Spider-Verse of it all. I don't know if your goal is to make a standalone movie. At this point, you don't have enough spider people to, I think, justify. I don't know, but I'm going to imagine it's some sort of connection. She's supposed to be some sort of connective tissue between Venom and Morbius and Andrew Garfield if we bring him back or whatever.
I agree with you, DJ. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is the only idea? Well, I have two ideas for this. I actually heard a stealth theory this morning that I'll pop out here. Is I agree with you. I think the Spider-Verse of it all might be the idea that she might be the connective tissue. I heard a stealth theory this morning, and I'd love to hear both your thoughts on this. Some people think that Madam Web might be the code name for this project, and she might actually be Spider-Woman. This might be like Jessica Drew or the other character you mentioned, DJ, and that they're hiding it.
But this is kind of like that news that like the Trench was secretly a Black Manta movie. It's like, why not just call it? We would have all been much more excited if you just called it Black Manta. Like, same here, just call it.
But also, that's not totally the same thing, because it would be like if it was a Black Manta movie and you called it a different name of a different character.
It would be like you called it Ocean Master.
That would be such a strange.
Well, but I will say, from a production standpoint, if you just think about just production, code naming a movie even to another character in the universe, it kind of serves two masters. It gets you the buzz because it got all the press. Look, we're talking about Madam Web right now. Yeah. So they're getting the press. But also, people would be less likely to paparazzi or try to get pictures on the set if it's a Madam Web movie compared to a Spider-Woman movie or an Ocean Master to a Trench movie.
Maybe they're gauging interest and they said it's a Madam Web movie. And then they listened really close to all of us and they were like, no. All right, well, that was a joke. Or
the other crazy option is that there is a Madam Web script that was written in the last 2 years or 3 years that is just flipping awesome, and it's nothing like the comic books, and we'll all be convinced wrong. We were like, well, Madam Web movie does work.
Except it's Sony, so that, yes,
who knows?
Possibly.
It's a coin toss, right? It's a coin toss, yeah.
So Roxy, somebody that from this conversation, the impression I get is that you're not as necessarily like versed in the Madam Web verse. What were your thoughts when you heard this?
No, I wasn't, and had to do some reading. And for me, I feel like anytime there's a character that I don't know that much about, the positive of it is that it gives you a lot of room to play.
Yes.
Because people are not as precious, and so you can kind of just like make shit up as you go. I'm also somebody who loved both the Venom movies, so I clearly accept a certain amount of liberties in my films, even though I obviously knew a lot more about Venom going into the Venom movies. But I kind of like some of the things that they're doing. And while I don't really get what happened in the room for this to be the choice, because based on the little that I've read, I was like, something obviously did happen in the room for this to be the choice.
Yeah. Roxy, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen of Morbius, are you excited by the trailers of this movie that might never ever come out?
April Fools.
They wrote, shot, and released the Spider-Man movie in the time that Morbius has been delayed.
Because it's the biggest April Fool's joke that ever was. You don't understand.
Yeah.
So for 3 years, 2 years, I thought that Morbius was going to be the worst dumpster fire of a film that we ever saw. Everything we saw made me want to just hide under a table. I thought it would look atrocious. And I think I said things like, I'm not going to go see this movie. And then the most recent trailer that came out, all of a sudden I was like, all right, I'm in.
You're 2 years into a pandemic and you're like, listen, I'm on board. Let's make it happen.
Yeah,
you're like, I watched Bloodsport. I'll watch anything.
Bloodsport was the very last pre-Panini movie that I saw.
What, Bloodshot?
Or Bloodshot.
Bloodshot. Yeah.
I
was like, Bloodsport's actually pretty good. Hold on.
My apologies. They all sound. There's so many Bloodshot sport movies that they all sound the same.
Yep.
So I think that there's actually a chance that I like that movie. I've been dicking on it for years. Then the most recent trailer, I was like, I don't know whether I've changed or you've changed.
Or maybe the rumors have like they've baked into ether so much that there's like the chance of Andrew Garfield showing up. You're like, okay, I mean,
that part doesn't get me any more excited. I hope that they leave that alone. Leave Andrew alone.
I
agree.
More time for me with Andrew.
Listen, I'm on board with like let Andrew be your Sony versus Spider-Man because it's like I'm tired of Venom movies where Spider-Man doesn't show up. Morbius is he's a lower tier character, but he is a character that I think makes more sense on his own from Spider-Man. Like, you don't need Spider-Man for like Morbius to exist. But it's like, yeah, have Andrew Garfield show up for a fight scene. I'm for it.
It's still the weirdest thing. And talking about all these conversations about like Sony and the Spider-Man, because Spider-Man does have a great universe of characters.
Yeah.
There are other characters that could work in movies, like Black Cat.
Yeah.
Black Cat could carry a movie.
Black Cat could carry a movie. I don't know if he still counts under the Spider-Man banner, but there was a character when I was a kid, Nightwatch, that was heavily associated with Spider-Man. I think he'd be great. There's another character, Annex, and like, they're lower tier characters.
I mean, the New Warriors, I don't know if they were technically under the Spider-Man banner.
Well, that's my question. When you brought up Jessica Drew, it's like, I know Jessica Drew's a spider person technically, but I don't know if she would have been part of what Sony bought when they bought the Spider-Man rights.
That's fair.
What was the other one that we were talking about? Black Cat would be a good one. The other thing that I'm just kind of surprised that we got a Madam Web before we would get an announcement from Sony saying, Emma Stone's back as a live action Spider-Gwen.
Right. That is, to be honest with you, I was surprised we didn't see her in No Way Home. I was expecting it as an after credits scene, but it's weird because she's done a couple Disney movies in the last couple years. Yes. So it's not that she's on the outs for the studio. But yeah, I agree with you too. Like, I would rather see an Emma Stone Spider-Gwen movie over bringing Andrew Garfield back as Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the not seeing, because I was with you, I was like, that we got to do that. I do think that was one of the few instances of restraint, either on purpose or by accident, where it's like, well, the whole theme of the movie is about loss, and so we can't walk back one of the characters' major loss in this movie.
Well, and also I think probably, and this might be a little bit on the docket. They might have said, well, we just released the Spider-Verse trailer with Spider-Gwen. Let's not step on its toes.
Yeah, very excited for that movie. All right, that's it for the news this week. We're going to go on a quick ad break, and then we will be back to discuss all of the... We were talking about Spider-Verse, now we're going to talk about the Superverse, all the super peoples in the land. We'll be right back. All right, we are back from our gosh darn ad break. Oh my goodness, I can't speak today.
Sounded like gosh shower.
Listen, gosh shower. It's been a week, okay?
What is a gosh shower?
What is it?
What is it? Mercury's in retrograde?
Is it right now?
Yeah, apparently. I mean,
is it ever not? When are we in protrograde? Like, when are we in?
I think we've been retrograde since 2020. So
who's to say?
Every day we're in retrograde. How?
I don't know. I'm not a big believer in that stuff, but like based on my last 2 weeks, I'm 100% like, oh yeah, it's true.
Me too. Yeah, yes, and yes. You and I are having a very similar 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What does Mercury in retrograde even mean? Doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Does not matter. Listen, this is not the show for that. But
your listeners are screaming at us right
now. So, Jason, you're obviously here to talk about your comic super best friend, and a part of that is in the comic, and let's talk a little bit more about this.
Sure.
Is I know on the cover you've got an homage to Electric Superman, Superman Blue, Superman Red, Cyborg Superman, and which of course makes me think of all the variations we've had of super people over the years. But before we get into any of that, we do have a question from Leonard Kim about your comic. What were some of Jason's key sources of inspiration for the new comic?
Oh, wow. What a great question. How did you have a question prepared? This is amazing.
Listen, every week, for those on the Patreon, every week I go into the Discord and I ask a question before we do the show, so we can come in and answer your questions, because it is only stupid answers. We try to answer your questions on the show. So that's the question for you, good sir.
Wow, that's fantastic. What a great question. So a big source of inspiration for this is actually a Superman analog / copy, and that is Icon. Which is published by Milestone Comics. And fun fact, so my Kickstarter, funded today is the fastest Kickstarter ever. And so I went to the comic book shop and I bought myself a gift, because I was like, okay, I did it. I can't believe all the hard work paid off. Here, it's right off camera.
For those watching the video on YouTube later.
Yep. I bought the giant Milestone. Look at how thick this big baby is. This compendium they released.
Is that of the original Milestone run?
It's the first 10 issues of the 4 original Milestone comics. And if you don't know what Milestone comic books, it's Derek Dingle, Michael Davis, Dennis Cohen, I don't know how to say his last name correctly, and the late great Dwayne McDuffie all created this superhero universe. And one of their characters is Icon, who was a Superman analog who crashed on Earth during the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And he, of course, is a black man, and you can imagine all the permutations that came with that. So Icon was a big inspiration. Another big inspiration, and a lot of people were surprised by this, was Silver Age Daredevil comic books, because I kind of think that Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock have the best friendship in comic books. And I wanted to go back to some of the original stuff to see how in the Silver Age, how did Foggy and Matt interact? Yeah. Like, how did they become friends and stuff like that? So that was a big inspiration for me. But a lot of this is, again, like you were talking about the Cyborg Superman, the Electric Superman. The reason they got into the book is because I've always said to myself, if I ever got the chance to write Superman, that's what I would do. And what I say to a lot of people, it's like, well, hey, you may be jonesing to write Batman or Superman or whatnot. Don't wait. Yeah. Just scrape off the names and write the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the late John Schnepp was on back, and SourceFed was on one of the shows we did. And I was talking about, like, someday I hope to be able to write a Superman thing. Is like, don't wait for that. Just write your own thing. Do your own thing.
Yeah.
Because for those that don't may not know or don't remember, Star Wars was originally George Lucas's Flash Gordon pitch, and he couldn't get that off the ground, and obviously that worked out for him.
Yep. Well, and also
what was the property called?
Flash. Wait, what? I'm not familiar.
I'm familiar with the Mandalorian, but I don't know about the Star Wars.
Yeah. I've heard that one too before. Mando. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's very similar to, a lot of people don't like to speak about this, but it's whatever. 50 Shades of Grey was fan fiction of Twilight.
Dakota Johnson, bringing that full circle. So going back to the Cyborg Superman and the Electric Superman of it all, do you have from growing up? Of course, a lot of us are have Superman like baked into our brain. Iconic flight, super strength, red tights, S on the chest. Do you have a favorite variation of that? Like, are you a Superman Blue fan?
Oh yes. You know what? Okay, and I fully admit that Superman Blue, giving Superman electric powers for I think 2 years,
something like that,
was the wrong choice. But the thing that I love about it, and the stories aren't great, but that costume design is so good. Yeah. But the thing I like about it is that those creators took a hell of a swing. That is a swing for the fences. That is like saying, you know what, we're gonna make Batman's costume all yellow. and Batman's gonna pick up a gun and he's gonna drive a pogo stick everywhere. And we're gonna do it for 2 years. The fact that they thought that would, like, they took that chance, I think is amazing, because I don't think you see that type of creativity in comic books now, especially in the big two. I think Warner Brothers and Disney are very much like, no, keep it the same because we got to do it in a movie. Keep it the same because we got to do it in a television show for HBO Max. But back then, there weren't movies, there weren't television shows, so they were shooting for the fences. That's why Cyborg Superman and Electric Superman and we even had lion-headed Superman at one time showed up. They were taking chances, and sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. And that's the storytelling that excites me, is that type of stuff. But you were asking earlier about like kind of a Superman analog that I really enjoy. My favorite is one that I don't think gets enough credit. Yeah. It's Samaritan from Kurt Busiek's Astro City. Okay. Yeah. And this is an Image comic series that was published by DC for a long time. It's sort of been off and on published for almost 30 years. Yeah. And the only times they have breaks is because the creator, Kurt Busiek, has health issues. But I think overall, they've published about 100 issues of Astro City. Now it's in a bunch of miniseries and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's coming back to Image, I think, here in a couple of months. He's going to go to graphic novel format now, where he's just going to release a graphic novel once a year.
Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips have had great success with that, with their Reckless series.
Exactly. The first Astro City comic book ever was about Samaritan. He's very much a Superman analog. He works at a newspaper publisher, and he is very much about, it's a story about exhaustion. Is the story when you first meet him, is that he's saving people all the time, every minute. He doesn't sleep because he's saving people.
Yeah.
He's tired. And the only time he gets to relax and rest is in his dreams. And there's something like so beautiful about that story. And they've expanded Samaritan even more. Like Samaritan's change is that he's not an alien. He's actually the original basis from. Do you guys know what the original Superman origin was?
Well,
the very first Superman origin was?
The earliest one I know of is, if you looked at the image, he looks a lot like Lex Luthor, and he's supposed to have psychic abilities, if I remember correctly. The way original one that I remember.
Yes. So he is bald.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he does have some psychic powers, but I was more referring to the idea that the original Superman origin is that he is a person from the future, a future that has suffered an ecological disaster, and he has traveled back in time to prevent that.
Nice.
And they like gave him superpowers to make sure he can change the timeline.
Yeah.
And so that's what they did with Samaritan. They gave Samaritan like the original Superman origin. Like he's a person from the future here to prevent an ecological disaster. Mark Miller like referenced the original Superman origin in Superman Red Sun.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So like, yeah, but that's for me, that's my favorite Superman analog is Samaritan.
So Roxy, going to you, obviously for the kids at home, like we've had a ton of Superman analogs, of course. Jason just mentioned Icon, Steel counts. I think Supergirl counts as one.
I think Thor counts.
Thor technically counts. And of course, Sentry, you get in the Marvel. Marvel's been trying to crack
Omni-Man.
Superman, Omni-Man, Hyperion, Homelander. We've had a boom of super people. Brightburn. Roxy, do you have a favorite?
How are you guys counting Thor? How?
Because
you're thinking, I bet most people are thinking about modern day Thor, but the original Thor run, he's a dude with big muscles and a red cape that basically just punches people and flies.
Yeah. And also, I think you could also
it's
say
100% Superman.
He's also very much a Shazam analog because of the transformation. And Shazam is a ripoff of Superman.
And Shazam is a direct ripoff of Superman.
Superman is the Kevin Bacon of superheroes. There's always some sort of connection to Superman. But Roxy, do you have like a favorite non-Superman Superman?
I don't know if I have a favorite non-Superman from like when I was younger. I mean, every character you guys just named, I guess I have some kind of an attachment to in a different way. If you would ask me this after the second season of Supergirl, I think if you remember back to in the day for Only Stupid Answers, DJ, when every week Sam would obsess over Flash and you would obsess over Arrow and I would obsess over Supergirl, and it felt like the first time I had something like that on TV.
Yeah, and then, the good old days.
Yeah, and then they decided that they hated me. And that's what happened there. Although she never decided that.
Yes.
Melissa was always.
Yeah, Melissa Benoist always brought it. Yeah.
Yeah, she was always awesome. But my first love of Superman was Superman. I wasn't somebody else that wasn't Superman. I used to sleep every night with a doll that was my size of Superman. It was a plush doll of Superman. I would go to bed every night with him, and I thought that was like going to keep me safe and protect me. And because I'm about to say because I am so young. Because I am so young. All right, fine, I'm in my 30s. Leave me alone. Because I am so young. I was like a kid when Smallville came out.
Yeah.
So that was some of the huge introduction to a lot of characters for me, and a lot of Superman and Superman-like characters. And yeah, so I don't know that I have like a one individual that is not Supes that is my Supes, but that would be kind of my sense of it.
So, Jason, go back to you. Why do you think, like we just rattled off a bunch of Superman things, and I think what's interesting about the Superman analogs is how often they are just Superman. Like they are just Superman. Like Daredevil, I feel like is a pretty clear Batman ripoff. but has some pretty strategic differences, like pretty pronounced differences in the fact that he's broke most of the time, and of course he's blind and he has abilities and powers and all that stuff. But with Superman analogs, it's always just Superman. It's just Superman with a different name and maybe a different backstory. Why do you think we have so many permutations of Superman?
Because he's the first. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, things have changed now to where I would maybe argue that Spider-Man might be the most recognizable superhero in the world, or even, I mean, I'd even give you the argument for maybe Iron Man.
Maybe. Yeah, my go-tos there would be Spider-Man and Batman.
Yeah,
well, but see, you got to think about like the Marvel machine is a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
But my sister does not know who Iron Man is.
Really?
Yeah.
After several billion-dollar movies?
No idea.
25?
She's never seen a Marvel movie ever.
But it's not who, if you know, if she saw a picture of Iron Man, would she go, that's Iron Man?
No.
Really?
She would know. She would for sure know Spider-Man.
Does she have the internet at all?
I should text her and I should ask.
Yeah, because that's the thing.
Really don't think so.
I'm not, because my mother, I always judge things off of my mother who lives on a farm in the middle of nowhere, Kansas now. And I could show her pictures of Iron Man now, and she'd go, "That's Iron Man," just because she's seen
Grammy
enough
would not know.
commercials.
Grammy would have no idea. I should call Grammy right now. We should.
Yeah,
she knows
like that's my question. Like, you know, I think the Marvel machine and the Disney has like maybe flipped the paradigm, but before, I would say mid 90s and before the Batman movies took over everything.
Yeah,
it was Superman. It was Superman. In fact, I don't know if this is true to this day, but there was a study released in the late 90s that was like, what are the 3 most recognized symbols in the world? Doesn't matter what language you speak, you would recognize it. And the top 3 were, and I'll go from 1 to 3, was crucifix, the Coca-Cola symbol, right, and the Superman shield.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, because like I think like people know that S even if you don't know Superman, because it's been just so co-opted. But I think Marvel and Batman and other things have like maybe flipped that. But before, you know, like 1995, I think it was Superman for like 60 years.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's why people keep copying Star Wars. You know, like there's how many movies and television shows have we seen where like the creator gives the argument where it's just like, I was trying to make my Star Wars. You know, you hear that all the time. You even hear that for movies that aren't set in space.
Yep.
And they'll be like, well, this is my Star Wars. And you're like, yeah, but it's set in a desert in the Old West.
Yeah.
I need you guys to know I just texted my sister. I said, do you know who Iron Man is? And she said, I mean, this is just rude. He's obviously a congressman. I have.
Okay, fair.
There you go. There you go. Iron Man hasn't cracked it yet. You know why?
Right.
Iron Man hasn't cracked it? Because he doesn't have the good logo. He doesn't have the spider or the bat or the S.
She definitely knows Spider-Man. She for sure knows Superman. She knows Batman. She would know Wonder Woman. But
would she know Captain America because of the shield?
Maybe.
Ooh,
Maybe.
Can we find this out before the end of the episode?
Let's find out. Let's see how strong the branding is for Captain America.
Yeah. Let's see if the patriotic stuff maybe puts him over the edge of Iron Man.
And it's interesting too, because I think you're right, because of the idea of him being first, and because of him being first, he and his power set have become shorthand for superhero. Just like,
yes, you are right.
If you're writing standard bargain bin superhero, they're gonna fly, they're gonna have super strength, they're gonna have,
and they're gonna have a cape.
They're gonna have a cape. That's the go-to, to the point where, like, again, we just watched Into the Spider-Verse for the Patreon show Spider-Versity, and there's the gag about the cape in that movie, because that's basic superhero stuff. They get a cape, even though I think at this point it's pretty much only Superman and Batman that really rock a cape, and Thor sometimes.
It's not practical, right? But like when you think about, it's also funny too, right? Because when you think about it, like, the Shadow kind of beat Superman to the cape.
Well, and that's interesting when you get to the and it's an interesting example too, because of course the nascent beginning. Of course, we had a Superman movie in the 70s, but that didn't start a superhero boom. But we had Batman in 1989. But instead of kicking off like a superhero renaissance, it kicked off like a pulp hero renaissance. Like, we're going to do a Phantom movie, we're going to do the Shadow, and I actually really like the Rocketeer, which I actually really like Rocketeer and the Phantom, and I like the Shadow as a character. I'm not going to go to
There's
defend
some
that movie.
good parts in that movie. Ian McKellen's in that movie. There's some good parts in that movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it recently enough to.
Don't even bother.
Yeah,
don't even bother.
But
they could remake a Shadow movie today, and I think it would be badass.
I think especially if I think you can make it R-rated. You could probably make it with something like Blumhouse, introduce some horror elements. It's still technically a pulp superhero story, but Shadow lends itself. Anyway, whatever. If anybody's looking to make it, I got my Shadow pitch ready. But because I agree with Jason, I actually think you could do something pretty great. But it is interesting, those characters that kind of like Superman is the patient zero of what we know as superheroes, but the Doc Savages and the Shadows of the world kind of like they walked so Superman could run, kind of.
Please, somebody take an image of DJ from this video and memeify this quote: Superman is the patient zero of superheroes. Please.
And so I think you're right that's why
that is fantastic.
That's why we get so many of them. But it is interesting to me that we don't really tweak, unlike the Batmans of all the different Batmans. We don't really tweak the Supermans. Like, we can just have a character with the same power set, same basic backstory, call him a different name, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's exactly like what you said, and it's a challenge that I even faced on my comic book, was the idea of like using Superman is a shorthand. Yes. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows his basic powers. I've been asked this on a couple other interviews because people are like, "Well, what are Terrific's powers?" Mm-hmm. And I say, well, they're the ones I show you in the book, and there's more.
Yeah.
And they're like, but what are the more? And I'm like, well, I don't want to tell you, because I don't even know the answer myself, because I don't want to know the answer, because when they were writing comic books in the Silver Age, they were adding powers as the story demanded it. And that's the same thing that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it makes them a little bit mysterious. But with Terrific, or Calvin Coleman, as his real name is, it was a struggle to make him different. And the way that I made him different was his personality. Is I decided that Calvin was the type of man that he can't bear to see anybody get hurt, no matter what. It like just bothers him. And so he is overprotective of people. So much to the point where, like, there is a scene in issue 1 where he is working with another superhero that I named Lady Samurai, and he won't let Lady Samurai into the fight because he's afraid she's going to get hurt. And that is Captain Terrific's arc of the Super Best Friend arc, is like allowing him to learn to like let people help him.
Yeah.
That just because you're indestructible and invincible, like, so like, I think that's the best way. Like, that's what I think is one of the most brilliant things about Homelander. And it's as true in the comic books as it was in the series. It's like, oh yeah, like Superman basically as a Nazi is terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's just a slight little shift. Like, in Homelander basically has all the exact same powers as Superman. Like, it's literally he has X-ray vision, he has heat vision, he can run fast, he can fly. Like, I don't think they changed a single power. They just changed his attitude.
Except I don't know that we've seen him, at least in the show, use freeze breath. That might
be
that's
true.
That's the one that always gets dropped.
Freeze breath is because there's a point with freeze breath where you're just like, is this lame? It's kind of lame.
Yeah. Well, I think with any of those powers, like, for me, I'm big into like, you need to be able to at least find a way that you can believe it. You know what I mean? You can at least, even if it's comic book nonsense. Like, okay, so heat vision, he's basically a solar battery. He's absorbing all this energy. He can project energy, and why his eyes, whatever. I think the only way you'd be able to explain freeze breath is because he's a solar battery, his body still needs to remain cool. And so internally, he's cooler and he can release the breath. Something that's just like, okay, here's how it works. Like, I'd be a big proponent of, like, if I was writing Superman, I'd need to know how fast he can fly. Is as fast as an SR-71? Well, that then dictates how fast he can get to da-da-da-da-da. There's got to be limits. I think limits, depending on the story. You're going for a classic Silver Age thing to where there weren't a lot of limits on that storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But if you're so depending on the story, I think something like you look at Man of Steel that's trying to be more grounded. I think it would benefit creative teams trying to do something like that, where it's like, okay, well, you need to know what the boundaries are, and then if you break those boundaries, why they're able to be broken at this time. But you mentioned Homelander, and that's going to get me to my next question. But first, we are going to go to another ad break. All right, and we are back, and Roxy has an update for us. Roxy, what's your update?
So I asked my sister if she knew Captain America, and she said, "Nerd? ? We should make a board game, half with Gen Z references and half with your nerd shit, and see who can answer more of whose."
So is that a yes?
I don't know.
I like her very assertive opinion that none of this is Gen Z stuff. Like the Gen Zers are not seeing Marvel movies.
Yeah. I just want to say, Your Honor, I request to treat the witness as hostile.
I know. It's so funny because my brother is 2 years older than me, and my dad and my brother were comic book collectors.
Yeah.
And we were close enough in age, my brother and I, that I just so desperately wanted to be liked by him. And he was into all this things that I thought she's deemed as nerd. I thought was so cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was so cool. So I just really wanted to read things with him and to understand what he was talking about and play video games and get my butt whooped and whatever. But she was 7 years younger.
Oh,
and she did not give a flying F what we thought was cool. She was just like, what are you guys talking about? I'm into just completely different things, and never gravitated to it. And I always think about this because while Marvel is this billion-trillion-dollar machine of things where I sit there and I'm like, there's not a person on the planet who doesn't know what's happening here. She has no idea and does not care, and neither does my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And they are two major points of reference for me, which is how I know that, like, Spider-Man, he's unavoidable.
Yeah.
Batman, Superman, unavoidable. Iron Man, really popular for our MCU loving selves.
That's fair. That's a fair point. Point. I mean, it's the same with my mom. My mom has not seen a single Marvel movie.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Like, how'd you miss them all? It feels like at that point you had to
at this point, there's 25 of them. For God's sake, you're like,
and there's almost literally no other movies in theaters.
Right. That's
so you just don't go to the movies.
Yeah. And there's one every 3 months. So it's just like, how'd you missed every single one of them, even the ones you didn't need to see the ones before to see. You missed all the shows. Every show.
Yeah, that makes me.
I've missed a bunch of the shows.
But she has Disney Plus.
See, so that's strange.
What other shows are on Disney Plus?
Look, it's The Simpsons. It's that Star Wars thing that I've never heard of.
Yes.
And then it's Marvel.
She likes the Pixar movies and she likes the movie.
Well, listen, that's fair. Most of the Pixar movies are very good. And listen, Encanto's on Disney Plus now. So
Encanto is awesome.
Oh, Encanto's so great.
It's really good.
Damn it, it's so good.
We liked Mighty Ducks Game Changers together. There's things on there that have nothing to do with this.
I know there's like Tony Hale show that's about magic that I just keep seeing commercials for that I'm like, I'm not watching that.
Yeah. And then trailers for that, like Jeff Goldblum National Geographic show, and it's like, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch it, but good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of like, mostly I'm just like, I'm glad a crew got paid to make that. All right.
I just rewatched Life Aquatic the other day, and I kind of just wish they'd also gotten Bill Murray and had it been their characters from Life Aquatic in a National Geographic show trying to like outdo each other with the information or whatever. But that also makes me think of, I remember after seeing Infinity War, I was like the only person on the planet that had mixed feelings about it. So I went and saw it again in just a normal screening, like on a Saturday morning. And I remember walking out of the theater, and this poor woman behind me was with like a couple of her friends, and the last movie she'd seen was like Age of Ultron. She saw the Avengers movie. She saw Avengers 1, Avengers 2, and she went and saw Avengers 3, and she was lost. She was like, what happened between Avengers 2 and 3? And it's like, I
don't think she was the only one. And it's funny. And like, this is a completely different conversation, but like, I've said this to a bunch of people recently, and they look at me shocked. And it's because, the three of us, we are inside this Marvel bubble.
No.
And people outside the Marvel bubble, they don't watch everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that there are shows on top of these 4 movies a year and stuff like that, it's going to get to a point where the barrier to entry to Marvel is going to be like a soap opera, where it's like if you miss one thing, you're completely lost.
Yeah. Well, especially now that they're doing multiverse stuff and all that. And
yeah,
all that jazz.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that's gonna, that's a whole other episode.
My favorite thing is the people that like to rip on the old Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. That it has not even occurred to them that
they go straight to hell.
But it hasn't even occurred to them that the next generation will make fun of Iron Man. Like they think that these movies are unimpeachable and fuck those old movies. It's like, well, you clearly don't know how generations work. Roxy's sister hasn't even watched them.
I can't remember. Oh man, I'm spacing out what it was, but I watched I don't think it was a nerd or superhero movie from like 2008, 2009ish, and it kind of came off as goofy.
Well,
and so I was like, ooh, and this has only been like 12 years, so or 13, 14 years now. Damn.
Yeah. It's listen. Time is a cruel mistress.
It is.
But what I wanted to talk about, you mentioned Homelander, and I think the other aspect of this Superman variation conversation is the tendency to just make Superman evil. Many writers like to come to this as if it's it's an original idea that only they have come up with. It's like, what if Superman but bad? And it's like, And it's also interesting that we all mentioned Omni-Man, but none of us mentioned Invincible, as he is also a Superman analog.
Oh yeah, he's Superboy, but yeah.
He's what if Superman was also Spider-Man, just like Batman Beyond is what if Batman was also Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, Batman Beyond is like a direct copy of Spider-Man 2099, but I love them both, so I don't care.
So why, Jason? What do you think why do you think there's that tendency to what if Superman but bad?
Because it's easier to write a story about a bad character than a hero. And the reason that is because when you look at how, mainstream news and mainstream media portrays humanity, it's mostly bad. We don't really see a lot of media about heroes, like actual true blue heroes. And when we do see movies about heroes or stories about heroes, they're usually about how they're morally mixed or they're great. Like even we were just talking about Iron Man. There's a whole Captain America movie about how Iron Man is maybe not on the right side morally, and maybe he's making bad decisions just because he's upset that his mom was killed. So that tends to be the media that is made because it's easier to understand, because I don't know what it is about the modern world, but there is this tendency in the modern world where we don't understand why a person would be unbelievably nice, unbelievable helpful, like what Superman actually is. It's the argument where people always say, and you hear it every 5 years, where people say, well, is Superman relevant anymore? And it's because and people are like, well, but he's just too goody two shoe. I mean, would a person really be that good? And you're like, no, those people exist. They're out there as doctors and nurses and teachers and all these people that are basically giving their entire life, not for the money, but to help. And yes, there are bad eggs in every little box, but Superman was created during the Great Depression, when everyone in the world had no hope. World War II was kicking up. So half the people in Europe were afraid they were going to die every second. Yeah. And here comes this man that has more powers than God, that can change and make our lives better. Yeah. And I say that character never goes out of style. And that character is always relevant. But it's easier to make him bad because that I think that says more about where humanity is now, then that we think that it's just impossible that a man could be that nice.
Good. It's good that we feel that way.
I
Let's stop being aspirational.
The other challenge is not just impossible that a man could be that nice. It's that I kind of feel almost the opposite, Jason, where it's of course a man could be that nice if he had no serious things to worry about. If he had no serious threats to him, I feel what the conversation around Superman today and why people are, I agree with you that he's never going out of style. To me, I just love Superman. And I think he's such an important character. But The people who I find just are gravitating away from him, who think he's going out of style and don't want to see him anymore, is because like, while yes, there is kryptonite and he has loved ones and family and significant others and, you know, things that he does care about, it's not the same as humans where you can relate to somebody who has legitimate fears, fears of every day getting hit by a car, fears of all of the things that all of us have, of brain aneurysm. I'm just throwing out random things that like that keep me up at night. I'm sure other people too. And so I think that with him, just the lack of relatability in terms of even with other superheroes, like what are we even talking about when it comes to any of the other members of any other team? So I think that's where the fatigue comes from. Not could a man be this nice, but like, oh yeah, well, I could be this nice if I had that kind of life too.
Well, you know, and my argument to that would be, or my counterpoint to that would be, is that, you know, that's just the different type of mediums there are and different types of stories, because there are stories where we want to relate to the character. And then there are stories where we want to lift ourselves up. Like, we don't watch comedies to be like, I feel like I'm the main character. We watch comedies to make us laugh so we can forget our lives for 2 hours. And that Superman is that type of person, whereas like Spider-Man is the relatability person, you know? But I also would say, like, to that, like, we were mentioning the Arrowverse a little bit earlier. CW's Superman and Lois, if you haven't watched it, is an excellent show. And I was like, I don't think they're going to be able to pull this off. But there were episodes in season 1 where he wasn't even Superman.
Yeah.
It was just him dealing with his 2 teenager sons and them trying to pay the rent.
Yeah.
And it was in a lot of points, Superman and Lois is like more of a Clark Kent show than it is a Superman show. And to me, I thought that was the amazing way of how they figured out like how to make Superman more relatable.
Yeah.
Is because I think if you're a dad or you're a mom and you watch that show, I think you immediately relate to Superman and Lois.
I love the show as well. I have not caught up on season 2 yet. I loved the first season, but that's actually something that a little bit irked me about the show.
That it wasn't Superman?
I'm not going to sit here and pretend to feel bad for Superman trying to pay his bills when he could just do that. You know, that's not relatable to me, that Superman and Lois cannot pay their bills, when I'm sitting here like, but you could because you're Superman. So you could figure this out in a second. And then we've got like Lois's dad coming in left and right. Like, man's got money, man's got dough for days. And if Superman needed to get money, he absolutely could. And I'm not saying even like beg, borrow, steal, but like for hire or whatever it is, like start a GoFundMe, Soups. Like, there's no way Superman can't get that money. And so I'm watching that and they're like, woe is me, how are we going to do this? And I was just like, and even though I love the show, I was like, this is not interesting to me. I do not give a crap that Superman and Lois cannot pay their bills. Figure it out. I can't pay my bills. I have no powers. Like,
it's funny.
Figure it out.
So it's funny. So counter that, I could make that same argument about MCU Spider-Man. Because if you want to talk about like where they leave him at the end of that movie, and I won't go into it in case people haven't seen it or whatever, but they do leave him in a place where he doesn't have money and he's alone. And I want to be like, you worked for Tony Stark, you dumb dumb.
I agree completely with what you're saying.
So maybe it's a thing of like, maybe it's the idea of superheroes with money problems is not interesting.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. It's not Superman. It's just that that storyline.
If you have powers, like, you got money.
I also think there's ways to contextualize that within the writing that I think would make sense. I do want to, as we're talking about this, I do want to recommend people check out Mark Russell's One Star Squadron at DC Comics.
Oh, it's genius.
It's genius. It's also like all Mark Russell stuff. It's funny and it's genius. And it's also, when you think about it, bleak as fuck. God damn, it's so fucking bleak.
Yeah.
So just go into that knowing that, like, I just read his Not All Robots, and it's great, but also fuck.
He just finished Fantastic Four Life Story, which
I haven't read the last issue yet, but Fantastic Four last story is great.
The last panel is one of the most beautiful panels I've read in a comic book in my entire life. I like the last panel is so It's so simple and profound and amazing, and I highly recommend. That story easily went to one of my favorite Fantastic Four stories of all time.
Well, and it's just, again, it goes back to the old saying, and we talked about Thor earlier. That notion that there are no bad characters, just bad writers, and the people that like I would have always said Thor sucks. And then when I was younger, before the Thor movies, I read the parts of the J. Michael Straczynski, and I'm like, oh, actually, you could make a great Thor story. I'm wrong. Similar with going back to Electric Superman, Superman Blue. On paper, not great. And then Grant Morrison, because he was writing Justice League at the time, he had to deal with it. And when Grant Morrison was writing, it's like, well, actually, this could work.
Awesome.
Yeah,
he
maybe
pushed
this actually
the moon with his electric powers.
Yeah,
with his magnetic powers. Yeah.
Before we go, last question from Boiler Huff from our Discord chat. If you could make a Superverse movie along the lines of Spider-Verse, what Superman variants are you including in your movie? Also, which variant is your protagonist? So who are we throwing in there? Roxy, let's start with you. Who are some characters you'd want to throw into your Superverse?
What are my parameters, DJ?
There are none. Wait, I mean, I guess that's because with Spider-Man, they're all Marvel. It's not Spider-Man analogs from DC Comics or whatever. It
has to be a Superman, a DC character.
So, I mean, you know what? But it doesn't. We're not writing for DC. So it could be anything. Homelander could be in there. Omni-Man could be in there. I would say, for me, just to get the ball rolling, I think your main. Well, I mean, I guess Miles is the main character in that Spider-Verse. It's not Peter. If you're talking about the Spider-Verse movie,
but Jason just said it has to be DC.
I was just going off their question. That's you can do whatever you want.
I think it's the rules I'm laying down is it can be any Superman analog. I think if it were me, I'd probably like Miles in the movie. I'd have a brand new, just learning to be Superman. But of course, you're going to have classic Clark Kent in there, and I would probably include Invincible in there.
Oh gosh, I feel like I'm blowing it today. I have no idea. I mean, going off the show, I'm loving watching his sons. So figuring out if they both end up having two parts of a whole Superman, and together they have all of it. Yeah, did that answer? I don't know.
We put them in there. I think you got to have a Supergirl. What about you, Jason? Who are you thinking is in your lineup of Superverse people?
Kingdom Come Superman.
Oh hell yeah,
because you need the Superman just like Peter B. Parker.
Yeah,
that's older, who has lost his wife.
Yeah.
And who kind of thinks that maybe being Superman is a waste of time. And then the lesson he's going to learn over this movie is that, no, you should always be Superman.
Yeah.
You know what he's not thinking? How do I pay my bills?
Well, that's because he lives on the moon.
Yeah, is that because? He's in a hologram place that looks like the Kent farm, right? That's his setup.
Yeah, I think he's in the Fortress of Solitude or something like that.
Yeah,
he's in Antarctica. Yeah,
that's a good one. It'd be interesting to get the Superman from Superman Red Son in there.
I think you have to have John Henry Irons Steel in there.
Yeah, but I think you do a version of it that he is the Superman of his universe.
Of course he has an S shield.
He has the S shield, and
he was Superman at one point.
But that's a version where Clark Kent never came back, and John Henry Irons is the guy in his universe.
The only Superman in his universe. Yeah. And then you need I actually like your idea, Roxy, that I would say that the main protagonist should be the Super Sons, and that maybe in their universe, just like Miles, Doomsday showed up and Dad is dead. And they're 13 or 14, and they maybe only have one or two one of them has heat vision, one of them has freeze breath, neither one of them can fly, and the ending, the big climb, just like when Miles learns how to swing, they should learn how to fly. They can finally fly. Because that's an interesting thing.
Both of them or one of them?
No, both of them. Because I would
both of them together when they hold hands like Wonder Twin rules.
Yeah, and then they start can you read my mind?
Yeah. Classic. It'd probably be great to have a version, because I know they've done this sometimes in the comics, but a universe where Lois Lane is the super person. Yep. I know there's an Elseworlds tale where I think it's still supposed to be Kal-El, but it's Batman is Superman essentially. Throw that in there.
Well, you could
you're getting greedy, DJ.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say here's your twist to make it different than than Spider-Verse is you make one of the members of the team is going to betray them, because you should have a Lex Luthor Superman.
A Lex Luthor Superman, or if we're going with our no holds barred, like a Homelander, where it's like, oh no, you're evil.
Yep.
What do we do? We need some kind of animal help.
Crypto or Streaky.
Or Streaky.
Okay, yeah,
or
Streaky.
I'm blank. Isn't Comet the Super Horse?
Yeah.
It's Comet the Super Horse, Beppo the Super Chimp.
Monkey.
Yeah, Super Monkey.
Yep, super chimp. Wait, and then there's an alien creature that doesn't have a species. I don't know.
That's part of the super family.
No, yeah, you could have the super pets show up and they all talk.
Yeah.
And in their universe, animals talk.
And here's the funny thing though with Superman is we all chose characters with similar branding. You could do of Superman analogs, but they're all distinct characters. You could have Superman, Captain Atom, Shazam, Lobo. You know what I mean? Like Martian Manhunter.
I think it's better if you keep it in the Superman though, because like think about like Superman Family could be a great name for this, or again like Super Sons is a great name for this, especially if it's the two boys. But yeah, getting Lois Lane in there I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
It feels like we're kind of pitching something more similar to Loki than we are to Spider-Verse.
I mean, you might be, but I'm not.
Making me nervous. I don't know that our pitch.
I could write this script in 2 days.
Okay.
Hit us up. All right, that is it for us this week. Jason, before we go, remind everybody where they can find your comic now. They should check it out. Other than also there will be a link in the description.
Oh, awesome. We'll go check that link out in the description. Superbestfriendcomic.com. It'll be there till March 2nd. It's 44 pages of a sidekick and superhero friendship told through the lens of the Silver Age with a Photoshop filter, as I like to say. There's a lot of cool rewards over there. I got script reviews where I'll review, give you notes on your scripts. You can get yourself drawn into issue 2. There's a cameo level. And you can get the Electric Superman variant cover drawn by Comiker Girl on Twitter. So come check that out if any of that sounds fun to you.
Go check it out. Roxy, what are you up to? What should the kids be looking out for?
Surviving, and you guys can find me all over social media at Roxy Stryer and the Whirl Girls. We're actually pretty excited because we just did a goal this week. My co-host Steph Sabra has never seen any of the Batman movies that are not the TDK trilogy. So in preparation for the Batman, we are going back, and that's going to be on Sunday. We're doing a watch along, I think, for we're going to, I think, either do both Keaton movies. We're still trying to figure it out in what order and how exactly we want to play this.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing some Batman watch along Sunday, and then Wednesday we're doing a whole Batman thing. So come watch it. It's going to be fun because I've never watched the Batman movies with somebody who's never watched the Batman movies before.
Yeah.
Like, it's just been so many who's never seen those Batman movies.
Mm-hmm.
So
you should slip Mask of the Phantasm in there because it was technically released in theaters.
God,
that's a good call. That's a good call. I don't know how she feels about
so
that.
Fucking good.
It's technically a Batman. It was released theatrically.
Yes, which they probably regret in hindsight, but also to this day, that might be my second favorite Batman movie. I think it really holds up. It's very good. But go check all of that out. Again, links in the description, all that jazz. You can find me at DJ Talks Trash, and you can also follow the show everywhere that matters. But on Twitter at Only Stupid Answers. But on Twitter,
yank out the vowels from stupid Superman people.
And that is it for us. And we will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.